Welcome back to the archive. Today, something different. Not a gladiator, not a foreman, not a merchant, a soldier. And not the battles, not the generals, not the conquests. Something stranger. Every evening, after marching 25 kilometers in full armor, 5,000 men stopped and built a city in 3 hours, with a ditch, with walls, with gates, with streets, with a hospital, with a headquarters, with toilets over running water. Every night, the same city, in the same layout, in every corner of the empire. On the Rhine, on the Danube, in Egypt, in Britain, in Syria. The same city, every time. The next morning, they left it, and marched on, and built it again that evening. This is not a military story. This is a story about what happens when a system is so well designed that it becomes impossible to fail. But first, some of you were looking carefully in the last video. 3 things hidden. A legionary soldier passing behind the Ludus wall, walking in perfect military stride. A floor plan on Paul's desk, a square with 4 gates, an internal grid. A wooden valise stake hanging from a gladiator's belt, a construction tool, not an arena weapon. Those who found all 3, your names are in this record. And now, let's go to where that floor plan came from. I'm Paul. Welcome back. Let's open the record.
His name was Marcus Severus. He was a centurion in the 5th Macedonian Legion. He commanded 80 men, not 5,000, 80. That is the point. He did not build a Roman military camp. He built one sector of a Roman military camp. His 80 men built from marker post 7 to marker post 14. That was their job. That was all their job, nothing more. While they did that, 60 other centurions did the same thing on 60 other sectors, simultaneously. That is how you build a city in 3 hours. Not faster, parallel. Marcus Severus had been a centurion for 11 years. He had built this same camp hundreds of times. He did not think about it. It was like breathing. The march ended, the order came, he gave his commands, his men knew what to do, they did it. 3 hours later, a city. He ate his dinner, posted his guards, went to sleep. Tomorrow, the march continued. Let me show you how the system worked, because it was the system, not the soldiers, that built the city. The soldiers were the tools of the system. The first element, the scouts. Before the legion arrived, before Marcus Severus and his 80 men even saw the campsite, the scouts were already there. They chose the location, high ground if possible, near water, defensible. And then they did something extraordinary. They laid out the entire camp before a single soldier arrived. With flags, with stakes, with measured ropes. Every street marked, every building position marked, every gate position marked. The plan, identical to yesterday's camp, identical to the camp in Britain, in Egypt, in Syria. The scouts didn't design anything. They reproduced something that already existed, that had always existed, that would always exist. The second element, the tools each soldier carried. Every legionary carried 3 valles, wooden stakes, sharpened at both ends. He also carried a delabra, a combined pickaxe and hoe. Not a weapon, a construction tool. The Roman legionary was a soldier who knew how to fight. He was also a builder who knew how to dig. The two were inseparable. When Caesar crossed into Britain, the first thing his men did was not fight, it was build. The third element, the sequence. Everything happened in a specific order, every time. First, the fossa, the ditch, 1.5 meters deep, 1.5 meters wide. The earth from the ditch piled on the inside, not discarded, used. Second, the agger, the rampart, built from the dug earth, 2 meters high, compacted, solid. Third, the vallum, the palisade, the 3 valus stakes from each soldier hammered into the top of the rampart, interlocking, a wall of sharpened wood. Fourth, the gates, 4 of them, north, south, east, west. Always, every camp. A soldier who woke in the wrong camp in a foreign country in the middle of the night knew where the hospital was, knew where the food store was, knew where his sentry was, because it was always in the same place. This is what the system built. Not a camp, certainty. I want to take you through one evening with Marcus Severus. Not the history, the evening. It is late October, 101 CE. The Legion has been marching since dawn, 23 kilometers today. Rocky terrain, cold. Marcus Severus walks at the front of his sentry. He does not talk on the march. Nobody does. The weight of the equipment requires all available breath. The legionary kit, armor, shield, 2 pila, 3 valus stakes, the delabra, food for 3 days, personal equipment. Between 25 and 40 kilograms. Every day. When the order comes to halt, it comes through trumpets, not words. The trumpets speak a language every soldier knows before they know any other language of the army. Marcus hears the signal. He does not need to be told what to do next. He turns to his optio, his second in command, and nods. The optio passes the word. The sentry moves to their designated sector. They know which one. They were briefed before dawn. Sector 7 to 14. North wall, left of the Porta Principalis dextra. At the sector, the scouts' markers flags. Orange, visible even in failing light. A line of stakes with rope. The trench line, already marked. Marcus checks the angle. He has done this hundreds of times. The angle looks right. He gives the order. 80 men put down their shields. Pick up their delabre, begin to dig. The sound? Iron on stone and earth. 80 picks striking simultaneously. Within 20 minutes, the outline of the fossa visible. The earth, piled on the inside. Marcus walks the line. He checks depth. He corrects angles. He spots one section going too shallow. He stands over it until it is corrected. He does not raise his voice. He does not need to. The vine staff, the vetus, is in his right hand. Every centurion carries one. It is the symbol of his rank. It is also the instrument of discipline. Nobody goes shallow twice. At the 1 hour mark, the fossa is done. His sentry moves to the agger, the piled earth from the ditch, now compacted into the rampart, tamped down with the flat of the delabra, solid, dense, real. At the 90-minute mark, the agger is done. His sentry draws their valus stakes from their packs, 3 each, 240 stakes. They drive them into the top of the rampart, interlocking, the stakes notched at the top so they lock with their neighbors. A wall of wood on a wall of earth, above a ditch. 3 layers of defense, built by 80 men in 90 minutes. At the 2 hour mark, Marcus Severus's sector is complete. He walks the length of it. He checks every joint in the palisade. He checks the depth of the fossa one more time. He finds nothing wrong. He reports to his cohort commander, sector complete. He does not wait for congratulations. There are none. This is Tuesday. He collects his men, they retrieve their shields, they move inside the now forming camp. Fires are already lit on the Via Principalis, the cook slaves already working. The smell of food reaches them before the tent is up. Marcus Severus eats standing. He always eats standing on campaign. He checks his men. He walks the rows of tents. He looks at feet. Blisters on a march become wounds on a march, become a man who cannot march. He finds 2 men with bad blisters. He sends them to the validarium, the hospital, already set up, already staffed. He posts his watch schedule. He enters his tent. He is asleep in 3 minutes. Tomorrow, the march continues. And tomorrow evening, this again. Now I want to show you what was inside, because the walls are only the beginning. The castra, the Roman military camp, was not a campsite. It was a city, a temporary city, built in 3 hours, occupied for 1 night, or 1 week, or 50 years. The layout was always the same. Via Principalis, the main street, running east to west, dividing the camp in half. Every camp. Via Praetoria, the command road, running north to south, bisecting the Principalis, creating 4 quarters. Every camp. At the intersection, the Principalia, the headquarters, the commander's tent, or in permanent camps, a stone building. Always here, never anywhere else. To the right of the Principalia, the Praetorium, the commander's personal quarters. To the left, the Questorium, the treasury, the pay and supply records. Behind the Principalia, the granary, food for 30 days. Always. Distributed across the 4 quarters, the century tents. Each century, the same position relative to the Principalia. Marcus Severus's century was always in the same quarter, 3rd cohort, left of center. He could find his tent blindfolded. Also inside, the valudinarium, the hospital. Roman military medicine was centuries ahead of what came after it. Specialized surgeons, instruments, separate wards for different injuries. A soldier who was wounded in a battle in Dacia received better medical care than a wounded soldier in most European armies of the 18th century. Also inside, the latrinae, the toilets, built over a channel of running water fed from the nearest stream, not a hole in the ground, a sanitation system. The Romans understood the connection between clean water, clean waste disposal, and healthy soldiers, 15 centuries before European medicine formally accepted germ theory. Also inside, the thermae, the baths. Even on campaign, even in temporary camps of more than a few days, a Roman soldier who had marched 25 kilometers expected to bathe before sleeping. This was not luxury. This was discipline. This was the system. Here is something the archive holds that most people do not know. Some of the most famous medieval castles in Europe were built on top of Roman military camps, not beside them, on top of them. The Romans chose their campsite locations with extraordinary precision. High ground, near water, defensible approach, visible from distance. These locations did not stop being good locations when the Romans left. They were still high ground, still near water, still defensible. And so when the medieval lords of Britain and Germany and France needed to build fortifications, they built on the same spots the Roman surveyors had chosen 800 years before. In some cases, the medieval walls follow the exact line of the fossa. In others, the street grid of a medieval town follows the exact grid of the Roman castra. Chester, in England, Castra Divana. The street grid of the medieval city is the Roman camp. The Via Principalis became the main street. The 4 Roman gates became the 4 city gates. The Roman headquarters became the medieval cathedral quarter. York, Eboracum, the same. Cologne, Colonia Agrippina, the same. Regensburg, Mainz, Vienna, Budapest, Belgrade, Sofia. The Roman military camp did not disappear when Rome fell. It became the foundation of medieval Europe. Literally, sometimes in stone, sometimes just in the street grid, sometimes only visible from the air. But there, the system that Marcus Severus built every evening on the march is still in the ground beneath European cities, 2,000 years later. Here is what the archive shows most clearly about the Roman castra. It should not have worked. The mathematics are impossible. 5,000 men, 3 hours, a fortified city. Even with perfect tools, even with perfect organization, the numbers don't work. Unless the task is not build a city. The task is 80 men dig from marker 7 to marker 14. That's it. Not a city, a segment of a ditch. 40 meters, 1.5 meters deep. 80 men, 40 meters of ditch. That works. And simultaneously, 60 other centurions are doing the same thing on 60 other segments. This is the secret that the archive holds. The Romans did not build things fast. They built many small things at the same time. The genius was not speed. The genius was parallelism. And parallelism requires one thing above everything else: standardization. Every man knew his tool. Every man knew his segment. Every man knew his task. Nobody needed to ask. Nobody needed to wait. Nobody needed to coordinate, because the coordination had already happened before the army was built. It was in the training. It was in the design of the camp itself. It was in the 3 vallus stakes that every soldier carried every day of every march. The soldier didn't know he was building a system. He knew he was carrying 3 pointed sticks, and then he hammered them into the top of the wall in the way he always did, and 60 other soldiers on either side of him did the same, and the wall was there. The second reason it shouldn't have worked: the men were exhausted. 25 kilometers, in full kit, in October, on the roads of Dacia, and then 2 hours of digging. The Romans understood something about exhaustion that most armies forgot. Exhausted men can still follow a simple instruction. They cannot improvise. They cannot problem solve. They cannot adapt. But they can dig from marker 7 to marker 14, because they have done it 100 times before. And their body knows it, even when their mind is gray with fatigue. The system was designed for exhausted men. That is why it worked. The third reason it shouldn't have worked: the terrain changed every day. Today, flat ground; tomorrow, rocky hillside; next week, riverbank. But the camp plan never changed. The scouts adapted the plan to the terrain. The soldiers built the plan they were given. They didn't need to know how the scouts adapted it. They needed to know marker 7 to marker 14. That's it. And so, every evening, in Britain, in Egypt, in Dacia, in Syria, the trumpets sounded, the men stopped marching, the scouts' flags were already in the ground, and Marcus Severus looked at his sector and nodded to his optio, and 80 men picked up their dolabrai, and 3 hours later, a city. The camp Marcus Severus built in October 101 CE. He left it the next morning. He never went back. He built perhaps 300 such camps in his career. He remembered none of them specifically. They were all the same camp. But some of those camps, the ones in permanent locations, were never left.
The legions stayed. The camp became stone. The ditches became foundations. The wooden walls became stone walls. The Via Principalis became a paved road, and a city grew around the Roman street grid. Chester, York, Cologne, Vienna, Budapest, cities that are still cities, and under them, or in them, or defining them, the plan that Marcus Severus knew by heart: the four gates, the Via Principalis, the Principia at the center, the system, still there, 2,000 years later, still organizing the streets that people walk every day, without knowing it.
That is what the archive held today. Not the story of Rome's conquests, the story of how Rome prepared for them. Every evening, on the march, a system so precise that 5,000 exhausted men could build a fortified city in 3 hours. A system so standard that the street plans of Chester and York and Cologne are the Roman military camp. Still, 2,000 years later. The soldier who built it is forgotten. The system he served is in the ground beneath European streets. If this changed the way you see something, share it with one person. That is how this archive grows. And if you haven't subscribed to Paul's Lost Knowledge Empire, the doors are open. Next time, a different shelf entirely. The archive is deep, and what's on the next shelf, you won't expect. I'm Paul, archivist of Paul's Lost Knowledge Empire. Stay curious and keep reading.